Hi everybody, this is Karak with ACG, and I know that I normally do reviews and sometimes discussions, and today I want to do a discussion about the world's largest oxymoron, which is Steam support. Now this is a big deal to some people are going to take it positively, some people are going to take it negatively. What I want you guys to understand is this is one aspect of Valve and Steam that people are having issues with. That's what the discussion is about. It's not about hammering on Steam completely, thinking that they suck or anything like that. I want to make sure people understand that this is one aspect of a larger company that doesn't negate any positives about that larger company, but in no way, shape, or form does it disqualify discussion about the negative. When I went out and asked subscribers and looked on the net and talked to a couple people in different IRCs, here are just some of the stories that I've got around Steam support. I have a ticket open since July 15th. Now it's August 9th. Nobody has contacted me at all. I have a ticket since July 7th, no response at all. I haven't been able to get back into my account for 2 weeks, no response at all. I haven't been able to access my account for 3 weeks, no response at all. My ticket's from the starting of June, and it's still sitting open and unlooked at, and no response at all. My response was, they would investigate the issue. That was more than a month ago, no response at all. The response I got said they were looking into it. That was 4 weeks ago. Since then, no response at all. And I think the best one I've read so far, and I talked to this person on IRC, is of the 4 tickets I've ever submitted, not a single one was handled in less than a month and a half. First, I want to say that I've spent the better part of 20 years setting up client support centers for software and emergency response around the world. And the one thing you learn, regardless of where you go, what language you speak, or what monetary currency you bribe people in, support centers do things by the industry-wide standard, even if there's some adjustments here and there. Listen, I'm not going to say everything is their fault when I move on here forward in this discussion, or that they can't fix it. But I'm also not going to roll over like other groups and websites that have spoken to Valve representatives and pretended that anything Valve has ever said on the subject has been anything other than a bunch of reflective bullshit, like they all ate a bunch of tinfoil before the interview. This is why, whenever the subject of Valve and its continued refusal to repair its F-level customer service on the Better Business Bureau has always astounded me. What Steam says they're going to do isn't even the industry's lowest common denominator option. So let's discuss some of this. You know, those were the stories of Steam users asking for help within the Steam ecosystem, a system known for excellent deals, Steam streaming, and hilariously poor business management. You know, we all remember Skyrim paid mods with the partnership with Bethesda, and that was like watching a bus wreck filled with the dreams of modders everywhere as we all watched it shatter. This is the same company that admits to not investigating the games they're selling, and even recently had a company release a demo as their final product and sell it. Another product they sold through their storefront recently was a game that pretended to have multiple levels to complete, but hilariously had just a single one. Like that single CSR, obviously supporting all of Steam. Now, is that all Valve's fault? Some is, and some isn't, but the due diligence throughout the company just isn't there. One aspect of their business that has notoriously rated as poor is just overall Steam support. Verified stories of users waiting months for reactions to technical issues involving everything from purchase issues to unavailable DLC to accounts being locked out for the incredibly detailed explanation known as reasons. Why is it then that Steam support, a module within the Steam heartland, is so poorly mismanaged, and despite repetitive stories and verifications of Better Business Bureau reportable failures, nothing has really been done? It's at this time I think it's always good to remember that gamers, and inherently those attached to digital platforms, not only expect excellent deals, but also understand they will encounter a moderate amount of problems from time to time. The latter, however, being synonymous with Valve to the point that entire web articles and popular gaming podcasts have become an inside joke whenever Steam support is brought up, devolving into thousands of hilarious stories about absolutely poor customer service. You know, contacting support isn't the hard thing, nor is it getting a mostly automated alert message stating that someone somewhere is doing something about it. But it's what happens after the initial reaction that has so many gamers up in arms, or better yet, what doesn't happen. This issue's been occurring for years, and while months pass without any support for the user, more and more gamers flock to the deals and front end that Steam provides. It's my opinion that the reason we don't hear more about this issue is that not only is Steam considered the nerdy, unsocial cousin of many gamers, sort of elbowed and ridiculed for its awkwardness, but a part of the family nonetheless. But the fact is that so many gamers are flush with games due to the various deals that Steam and Valve have offered that by proxy, Valve quite literally bought themselves into a position of relative dominance and somewhat complaint obscurity, almost immune to the normal persecutions that, say, a Sony or a Microsoft or a Nintendo would have encountered by now with the same kind of level of support. Now, before anybody freaks out, this isn't to say that nothing gets fixed on players' accounts and that no tickets get quashed. But when you have stories about people finding that Gabe's email is the only way to get a proper response, I think you've identified the problem. You've identified a weak link within that system. That link is that a system so dominant within the industry has scored an F with the Better Business Bureau, and yet nothing has changed. I think that's important to remember, and you can somewhat compare them to star sports players with their talents in athletics, netting them additional freedoms and leniencies. You don't get an F with the Better Business Bureau without trying really hard. It takes a solid effort in not responding terribly, and as many of the complaints on the various websites indicate, responding to issues that have nothing to do with the original report. My 15 complaints so far have almost all gone completely unnoticed. Somewhat damning is the continual attitude Valve displays towards their consumers, lodging complaints and excuses for not using reporting agencies, while not seemingly understanding that simply due to the relationship that they have with consumers, that there's an actual duty on their part to provide business support in industry-wide fashion. Valve has made it clear they don't find systems like the Better Business Bureau important, but instead would rather just check Reddit, despite the fact that Reddit has no ticket count logs or reporting metrics, nor any kind of delineation system for problem reporting. This is a logistical nightmare of an argument when the discussion turns to where a client will go to claim a problem, especially as casual consumers may know of the Better Business Bureau as, it's a small national organization, but may not know that Valve's declared, of all places, Reddit to be where they expect to find problems. No, Valve would rather hinge on the likelihood of reporting in one specific place than actually even remotely following what's already a proven system of reporting and checking on their customer service levels. Now, the Better Business Bureau has at times, many times, been accused of being less than fair, adequate, and on the up and up when it comes to their rating. But that's not even a feasible reason to use a web forum that has its own fair share of questionable situations behind the scenes all the time as well. If that were the case, the only logical response would be for Valve to somehow create their own system of reporting on their performance, which they have not. Instead, they've chosen to play some kind of support telephone game like children on a playground where Susie tells Joey what her system's doing and hopes Billy understands it after Susan passes it on. It's a laughable excuse at the very best. The fact is that Valve has grandfathered in an antiquated and irresponsible design methodology into all of its systems that worked previously. That is the release it and see what happens mentality through their entire business, a mentality we've seen repeated in many ways, and for Valve has, for many parts, resolved into success, even if it's cost gamers themselves a great deal of headaches until whatever program Valve's decided to launch and just leave to see if it works or not may have matured. The fact also remains that Steam so rarely malfunctions, and so when it does, it always becomes a story of someone knowing someone else with a problem. This results in situations that lack that concrete pressure and focus that a larger, more widespread issue would create, like the Sony hackings or Microsoft's Red Ring. I think in situations like this, it's best to remember that this support systems and its failures have been rampant for over 4 solid years. Within the industry of client support, something like that would get a company blackballed, their staff fired, and the entire site closed down. Instead, Valve just sends out someone every year to say the same thing. Hey guys, we're looking into it. Hey guys, we're gonna check Reddit. It's the same kind of bullshit argument you get from people who introduce themselves and tell you that they're an asshole or that they're a bitch, so you better expect it, as if they're telling you is somehow anything other than a transparent ploy to allow them to act in the same manner that's befitted them before. Here we have a system of support that's continually failing, and yet despite reports, despite accredited business reporting on the terrible performance, there is almost nothing pushing Valve to change their way of doing things. And that's where this discussion gets sad. What does any of this mean, and what can be done? Obviously, a company that has a part in one of the largest industries in the world is required to uphold a particular response rate, correct? No, it means nothing. They've shown continually that they do not care. Until some kind of world-shattering issue occurs, Valve's consistent plan of offering services and deals that are good enough that most will look the other way when it comes to consumer and client service complaints will continue. Your best bet, if you have a problem, is to continue to pester support, try to find Gabe's email, continue to seek out answers on your own, and basically just ignore the problem, like Steam support does. For now, we're stuck with what we have. And personally, I think the industry as a whole is far poorer because of it.